Well, I've taken a look at the first two stories of Classic Who, so I thought it was only fair that we jump forward to New Who and check out some stories from recent years. And by recent, I mean 20 years ago. I mean, that's just horrifying, isn't it?
You got me very funny.
When Doctor Who returned to our screens in 2005, it was met with critical acclaim, with Russell T Davies as showrunner and his devoted team pulling out a beautiful series of television that still remains one of the strongest the show has ever seen. So join me on a trip down memory lane as I revisit an episode that kick-started a whole new era of Doctor Who. Yep, we're talking about Rose. I'll be breaking this analysis down into 5 acts, similar to Romeo and Juliet, just nobody dies at the end. Well, almost nobody. This episode was broadcast on the 26th of March 2005, written by Russell T Davies, directed by Keith Boak, and produced by Phil Collinson. It's probably worth addressing the elephant in the room. I currently have an eye infection and I got it halfway through recording this. I recorded it in 2 parts, so therefore half of it I'm going to look normal, the other half I'm going to look like I'm dead. Note to self, record in one go because otherwise continuity is going to screw you over. Right. No mucking about. Straight into the title sequence. Here's Doctor Who. Here's the actors. Here's the episode title. Let's get into it. Instantly, we're introduced to 3 characters. Our protagonist, Rose, her mother, Jackie, and Rose's long-suffering boyfriend, Mickey. All of these characters will become absolutely integral to the first era of this show, with each having a vibrant personality and unique qualities that set them apart from any kind of characters we've seen on the show before.
Oh, suddenly the entire world revolves around you.
Effectively, they are quintessentially 21st century characters with 21st century problems, and they just feel like fresh new takes on archetypes and stereotypes that we've seen before in the past. Rose is a normal 19-year-old girl who goes to her job up in the West End to sort clothes, comes home to her mum who lives in a council estate, and also has a boyfriend whom she seems to love, but we'll dissect that a little bit later in the episode.
Someone's got to look after this stupid lamp.
For 2005, this was an exceptionally relatable character because, for want of a better word, Rose was just kind of normal, I guess. Jackie is your average mum, overbearing, overprotective, and extremely loud.
Bev, she's alive.
But Camille Kaduri turns her into such a comedic icon with every single word out of her mouth that she's just such a joy to watch on screen.
Walking in now, you think I was her daughter.
Mickey, on the other hand, is lovely, but he doesn't quite realise that within a couple of days he's gonna be nothing more than a cuck. And I wish I could joke about that, but it's just true, isn't it?
Hey, here's my woman.
Also, please remember, anything I say about Mickey has nothing to do with Noel Clarke because, well, we all know why. I just wanted to put that out there, okay? So, let's talk about the first interaction with the Autons, who are the monster of the week for this episode. If you're unfamiliar with the term, an Auton basically refers to window shop mannequins who come to life being controlled by some kind of higher being, usually the Nestine consciousness. Whilst other forms of Auton have been explored in the show, mainly during the classic era, the iconic imagery of Autons is usually shop window dummies who drop their hand and shoot lasers. Also, it's worth noting that the word Auton doesn't actually appear anywhere in the script, not even in the shooting scripts. It's clear that Russell T Davies wanted to entice older audiences back into the show without alienating younger audiences by not knowing terms like Auton, which is kind of ironic because that's kind of the opposite of what he's been doing with his second era. I mean, nobody really knew who Omega was unless you were a Doctor Who fan already.
Tell me who you are looking for.
Omega.
Russell, what's that all about?
It's very much kind of internet age storytelling where you just hope it'll generate content.
Now, this initial scene where Rose walks into the basement is just an incredible moment in the episode. There's tension in the air that feels heavy as she navigates her way around the plastic sheets and mannequins, and the basement just feels like an uncomfortable, creepy setting even though this is just Rose's workplace.
Wilson?
I just find this scene so incredibly exciting to watch because it's like the calm before the storm. You heard none of that, did you? Graham Norton, when I catch you, okay? Stop talking over me. This episode, when it was first aired, was actually interrupted by Graham Norton's dulcet tones on a BBC Three show called Strictly Dance Fever. I mean, come on, surely the BBC couldn't have got it that wrong. I mean, it was playing over such a pivotal scene after all. Honestly, taking away all the tension like that as we're hearing Graham Norton go, oh, that's fantastic. I'm not even going to bother doing the accent, guys. It would just be offensive.
Probably best not.
Right, back to the actual episode and the actual scene. Like I was saying, it's a mastery in tension building and terror. The slamming of the doors, the mannequin heads turning slightly just to give you the indication that something's wrong. If this was a supernatural cold open, Rose would be the murder that the Winchester brothers were going to be investigating.
We're the Winchesters.
Suddenly, a large group of shop window mannequins start to come to life around her, surrounding her. Pin her up against a wall, which is a little bit creepy, I have to say. Uncomfortable. So it seems like the Winchester boys are going to be investigating her death after all.
First dead body?
Far from it.
Like I said, it's a thrilling moment. The tension is being built in such a natural way, and the climax of Rose's impending doom is just the icing on the cake, if you ask me. But wait, guys, a mysterious man appears out of nowhere looking strangely like Christopher Eccleston and tells Rose to grabbing her hand and dragging her away from danger. I do have a few questions about this moment. First of all, where did the Doctor come from? The camera angles don't exactly show you where he came from, but he kind of just appears.
A few moments later.
And then I think there's a more important question of how did Rose not see him? He's not exactly inconspicuous because of his leather jacket. Like, it does kind of stand out. It's not really normal fashion in the 2005s. I get that Rose was very preoccupied at this point, but I don't know. I probably would have noticed that personally. Now, this next sequence is something that we're going to see a lot on New Who, especially because the majority of the Doctors are invariably a lot younger and a lot more agile than the ones who played the Doctor in the classic era.
Who are you, old man?
Watching the Doctor and Rose run through the basement corridors was definitely nostalgic. It's one of my earliest memories of the two of them, and I just remember this moment so vividly, them running down the corridor, entering the elevator, the music in the background. I mean, Murray Gold is an absolute genius when it comes to incidental music because it fits so seamlessly in that you notice it, but it just feels part of the moment. It doesn't feel like it's out of place.
Beautiful piece of television.
The scene ends with them in the lift and the Doctor is trying to force the doors shut, but an Auton stuck his arm through, and using the old-fashioned technique of just ripping the arm off, they managed to close the doors. I mean, I have to say, it was a good technique and I have to give it to him.
Brilliant. Fantastic.
So, before we head on to the second act of the episode, there is a couple of things that we need to talk about. Firstly, for the second time in the space of a couple of minutes, the Doctor is telling Rose,
Run for your life.
why, you may ask? Oh, it's just a funny little thing, like the Doctor's about to blow up the building. The Doctor has a bomb and he's about to blow up the building. And you may think, ah ha ha, funny. He's not going to blow up a building. No, he does. Right there, on Oxford Street, boom, kaboom, okay? Can you imagine? On a random Friday. The Doctor is anything but subtle at this point, let's be honest. I mean, blowing up a building in the middle of central London just to get rid of an Auton nest. Surely there were better ways to deal with that. We get a cool, I'm assuming CGI shot of Henrik's as it blows up, and I have to say, it is a cool shot. And then we get an equally nostalgic shot of Rose running past an alleyway where it focuses in on the TARDIS, and that's our first glimpse at the exterior of the TARDIS. We're gonna have to wait a while for the interior of the TARDIS, but it's a nice little teaser. It's like dangling a little carrot in front of you going, oh, come on, have a little nibble, and I had a little nibble, guys. I had a little nibble. So that is pretty much it for Act 1, aside from a short scene that gives us another kind of look into what Jackie and Mickey are like as characters. Rose was just involved in a catastrophe and her mum is already on the phone to someone saying that they can get her an interview with the Daily Mail for 50 quid.
Oh, that's brilliant. Give it here.
Surely the last thing on her mind is doing an interview with the Daily Mirror of all people, do you know what I mean? If she wanted real money, she'd go to the news networks, you know. Get her on Good Morning Britain. She could milk that for weeks. Jackie never fails to entertain me, and I think her overprotective but dramatic flair lends itself well to this more grounded version of Doctor Who.
It's everywhere. She's lucky to be alive.
Mickey, on the other hand, is your typical boyfriend. Pop round to check that she's okay, and once he knows that she is, kind of disappears down the pub to watch the football with the lads.
There's a match on, ain't there?
I know, I said.
Well, that's not the point, but we could catch the last 5 minutes.
I'm not saying that I would be the perfect boyfriend, but if my girlfriend had just been involved in a potential explosion at her work, I don't think I'd be popping down the pub to go watch the Chelsea Spurs game. Either way, Mickey leaves her be and takes the degloved Auton arm with him. And I have to ask the question, why did she keep it? Why did she take it home with her? Surely that's asking for trouble. Surely. Are we lacking a couple of brain cells? Is that what's going on here? Or did we just not think about the potential ramifications of having living plastic in the house? This just seems like Rose is after some kind of trouble, and yeah, trouble is exactly what she's going to get. So now that we've finished Act 1 for the TV show, it's probably time to start talking about the novelisation of this episode. Honestly, it was a really, really good book, and if there's one thing I'm going to recommend you read, it's definitely this novelisation. There were so many cool moments, and I really didn't expect that. The beginning of the book saw our introduction to Bernard Wilson, who you'll probably remember was the chief electrician at Henrik's. Now, just between me and you, he actually was skimming money off the top of those lottery payments. I know, how cheeky is this man? He was taking people's hard-earned money, and it all came back to bite him in the arse when somebody won the lottery. That's right, somebody's numbers actually won the lottery, 16 million, and he didn't even put a ticket on for them because he nicked the money off them. And then he decided, oh, how am I going to get myself out of this situation? Let me blow up the building. I mean, it wasn't exactly a foolproof plan, it wasn't exactly a smart plan, but hey, at least the man had some kind of plan, do you know what I mean? And then the building ended up blowing up anyway because of the doctor, so you know what, actually, he kind of had a smart idea there. Kind of covered himself up well, apart from the fact that he died in the process. You know, Auton smashing through his head. Yeah, grisly way to go, but hey, he kind of deserved it, let's be honest. Also, there were various moments in the book where Russell's knowledge of what he had written into the show further down the line came in handy, and he started to throw in some subtle seeds that set foreshadowing up for future events. One such instance was when Rose was thinking about the drunk that she met on New Year's Eve, who said that this year was going to be a good year. Obviously, we know that that's the 10th Doctor, but I just thought that that was such a beautiful moment where even months later, Rose is still thinking about that guy and how he said,
I bet you're going to have a really great year.
And hey, I think that is such a cool addition to the book. It's using the knowledge from later down the line. This is literally the end of Russell's first tenure on the show, and he's introducing it right back at the start. Just superb writing, if you ask me.
Happy New Year.
And you?
So, we've had our first interaction between the Doctor and Rose, so now it's time for our second.
What are you doing here?
The Doctor's arrival at the flat is probably one of the funniest moments of the episode, especially considering the amount of jokes that are written into the space of such a short scene. First, we get the gag at the cat flaps where he's poking his head through and they're like, what are you doing here? I live here. Why are you going to do that? And she's like, what do you mean, why do I have to do that? I'm here, I'm living here. What are you talking about?
I'm only home because someone blew up my job.
And then we have Jackie Tyler offering herself up to the Doctor.
Well, anything could happen.
No.
He is quite blunt, and he says it with a smile that just doesn't really make the brutality of what he's just said hit as hard. The next moment of comedy comes from the Doctor perusing the flat's contents, dishing all the dirt on celebrities.
That won't last. He's gay and she's an alien.
I'm fairly certain he was calling Philip Schofield gay and Holly Willoughby an alien, which now that I think about it, actually makes a lot more sense. Either way, the crowning moment of this scene is the physical comedy where the Doctor is battling with an Auton arm, where Rose is just talking away in the kitchen, making a cup of tea, unaware of what is going on, and just ranting about what is happening. It was so funny, it was so entertaining, and I have to give them credit where credit's due. They know how to make comedy. We have to talk about the true tragic moment of this entire vicious fight. Sadly, we do have a casualty, and I'm not sure I'm gonna get over it. Okay, I'm brave, I could talk about it. Jackie's coffee table was destroyed. And I'm personally heartbroken. I mean, it was just such a relic, okay? It was such a beautiful piece of furniture. But in all seriousness, I don't know how Rose managed to leave that flat without any kind of ramifications. Like, Jackie doesn't even hear the fact that her coffee table, her glass coffee table, has just been smashed and ruined, and then her daughter and the strange man that have just entered her house have just now completely dipped from the place and have left. If this was my mum, I would never hear the end of this. I would never hear the end of this. We'd be at a family party 20 years down the line, and this story would be brought up. Oh, do you remember when a strange man came round to the flat and he broke the coffee table with you, and then you just left me to go clean it up? I would never live this down. Also, in the book, Jackie Tyler actually walks in on them in the aftermath of the Auton arm fight and spots Rose straddling the Doctor, to which she says, "Rose Tyler, you tart!" Genuinely, it was like a skit out of EastEnders. The words written on that page made me chuckle more than anything, and I just wish that this line or this moment could have been in the episode, purely because I would have loved to have seen Camille Kaduri's take on that line. As Rose follows the Doctor back to the TARDIS, we get a scene that is potentially one of the best moments of the series, and it just goes to show how the dynamic between Rose and the Doctor works instantly.
Who are you?
Told you, the Doctor.
Yeah, but Doctor what?
Just the Doctor.
The entire conversation is kind of a vital exposition dump, and whilst on paper it might look boring and it might sound like it's just a lot of information at once, the way it's written and the way the two actors bounce off of each other, it flows so seamlessly that you're picking up information without even realising you're being told anything.
So what you're saying is the entire world revolves around you?
Sort of, yeah.
The culmination of this argument results in the Doctor talking about how he can feel the Earth move beneath his feet.
And the entire planet is hurtling around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour, and I can feel it.
Clearly, the Doctor is a very, very big fan of Carole King, or he's best friends with Carole King, and he gave her the idea for that song because she can feel the Earth move as well. Either way, it's a beautifully dramatic moment that Christopher Eccleston just eats up. Like, oh my god, give me more of this.
Clinging to the skin of this tiny little world, and if we let go,
it feels like the Earth stops moving when he talks for a moment, just so that we can focus in on what the Doctor is saying. And the importance of those words lasts long after that conversation ends, and clearly has a very, very big impact on the way that Rose acts for the rest of the episode. As I mentioned earlier, Rose is not going to be deterred by the Doctor telling her to go back to her normal life. She's obviously going to want to find out more, and as the audience, we're kind of willing her on. We don't know much about this Doctor either, so we're almost using her as a vehicle for us to find out more.
Come on.
Now, because this is 2005, access to smartphones is limited, access to the internet is also limited, so Rose has to go round to Mickey's flat to use his computer, use his emails, and use the search engine on there to find out more about the Doctor.
Can I use your computer?
Yeah.
Now, Mickey warns her not to look at his emails, which begs the question, why not Mickey?
Don't read my emails!
If I was Rose, I'd have been probing a lot further. What women are lurking in your emails, Mickey? What subscriptions have you got that you don't want me to know about? What premium services are you paying for, Mickey, eh?
Shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut up, shut it up.
In the book, we find out a lot more about Mickey's backstory, giving us a more concrete idea about where he came from. We find out a lot more about his family history, how his mother killed herself, how his father abandoned him and left him to be raised by his gran, and also how his gran slipped and fell down the stairs and now he doesn't really have any family left. Also, Mickey has 3 friends that are just in the flat when Rose comes round, which I found very, very interesting. We have Patrice, who seems to be wanting out of his family life and wants to move out. We've got Mook, who is apparently gay and also has a crush on Patrice. And then we have Sally, who's transgender. And for 2005, I was like, this is incredibly progressive and I'm here for it. I didn't realise that Mickey was such an ally, but clearly he is.
I'm an ally.
These deviations from the source material really surprised me and actually gave it a lot more life. And we're going to be following these 3 characters through a subplot of their own later on in the story. But the most interesting part about them is the fact that they actually are part of a band with Mickey. And whilst Rose and Mickey were out of earshot, they came up with a name for the band.
Bad Wolf.
Which, if you've watched the show, you'll know is the season arc for season 1. These words keep appearing everywhere. But most notably, the first episode of the series doesn't have it anywhere to be found. So it's nice that Russell found a way to include that term in the book to really tell us that yes, those words were following Rose around her entire life.
I keep hearing those words everywhere we go. Bad wolf.
So you might think, what would Rose be searching for on the World Wide Web? Which every time I say that, I sound like I'm Bryn from Gavin and Stacey saying
www.
Well, first of all, she searches for the term, which, if you ask me, is absolutely ridiculous because how is that not going to throw up 100,000 NHS helplines? Do you know what I mean? I feel like you could have narrowed it down a little bit more than just doctor. The next search was, but again, yielded no results. But finally, yielded one website, well, thousands of websites, but one in particular website that was very, very noteworthy. The website was designed by a man called Clive Finch, and clearly this website does not get a lot of attention from the females, purely because his wife was incredibly shocked to discover that Rose, A, was a woman, and B, was here to see her husband about the doctor. Clearly, he doesn't get a lot of female visitors.
She's read a website about the doctor. She's a sheep.
Clive's words are particularly interesting when he talks about the doctor. He mentions how the doctor has one constant companion, and when he's probed as to who that might be, Clive just delivers one brutal, chilling blow.
Death.
This is fascinating to me because clearly this is Russell T Davies foreshadowing the most tragic run of Doctor Who ever. I mean, we don't get a happy companion ending until Jodie Whittaker's era on the show. Every other companion leaves with emotional baggage, trauma, dead, trapped in a parallel universe. I mean, you name it, they've done it on this show, and genuinely, I don't think any of them have had happy endings, if you ask me.
Oh, well, that's all right then!
Mark Bennett's exceptional delivery of this line really lingers in the back of your brain for the rest of the episode, especially knowing what happens to the character of Clive, and I have to say, it is just a wonderful moment. Once again, the book expands on Clive's interaction with Rose in a lot of really positive ways. First of all, their back and forward over email is detailed in the book. I think Rose was particularly worried that he was a paedophile or a nonce or something like that, and he went to extreme lengths to prove that he wasn't. And I think he kind of won Rose over with his charm, and that's what made her want to go to visit him after all. It was a nice bridge between Rose finding the website and going to his house, and it was also nice to see just a different side to Clive's personality, a more jovial, cheeky side to him, I guess. Once Rose is in Clive's shed, it appears that the evidence that Clive has about the Doctor is a lot more intricate and detailed than it makes out in the show. In the show, we just see a couple of clearly photoshopped images of the Doctor in various moments of history. Clive in the book has numerous examples of every Doctor, from the 1st to the 15th to the 100th. There are so many different pictures of different Doctors, and it was so interesting to see how they were detailed and described on the paper. It's a nice little Easter egg to see somebody who hasn't met the Doctor describe the Doctor in terms of their appearance, and I just thought it added so much more to the story that Clive has actually been tracking this guy through all of his incarnations. Are they the same person? Are they a family? They all have the same title. Who could this man possibly be? I think it just worked a lot better than the TV show because it was able to be fleshed out a lot more. Just like Mickey, we sadly got more of a backstory from Clive as well, which was particularly upsetting to listen to. I've always wondered where Clive's obsession with the Doctor started, and it seems like it began when his father died in 1963 in a scrapyard in Totter's Lane by what seems to be a Dalek. It was a nice moment of connection, coming full circle in the story. We're here now at a new era of Doctor Who, but still connections to the beginning of the show, 1963, Totter's Lane, that scrapyard, are still relevant today. And I just thought it was a really, really good moment. It was nice to give Clive a little bit of motivation, and it was also good to just tie some things together as well. Russell, yeah, did yourself there. Well done, mate. Now, what's happening outside with Mickey, you may be wondering? We're about to talk about a scene that is often brought up as the best example of how bad CGI can be in Doctor Who, and I can't even defend this scene, guys. I can defend a lot, but I can't defend this scene.
Coming in.
Mickey witnesses a plastic wheelie bin moving on its own, and I'm a bit like, I would not want to go find out what was in that wheelie bin because it literally could be anything. If I opened it and there was a raccoon in there, which I don't think there are raccoons in England, but you get my point, I would be absolutely shit scared. So he does go over, he does open it up, but then he realised, oh no, I'm stuck to the bin. And then the rest of the scene is just him getting gobbled up by a wheelie bin and then it burping. And I just sit there and I'm like, oh no, guys, why would you put this in the show's first episode? Why? When I'm showing this show to friends and I'm like, oh, this is like one of the best shows ever, I love it, it's amazing, and then this scene happens, I'm bracing myself because one of two things is going to happen. The first is they're going to be like, oh, that was really funny, I like this show. The second is going to be them turning to me and going, what was that? What are you making me watch? And I don't want to have either conversation because, like, can we just ignore this scene ever happened, please? So yes, the CGI isn't great in this moment, but hey, there are some positives here. At least Noel Clarke is where he belongs, in the trash. If you needed any kind of indication that Rose is actually not into Mickey in the slightest, then look no further, because she spends an entire meal with him and car journey not realising that bro's made out of plastic. Bro's basically Lego. That's crazy to me. That's absolutely mental to me.
So where did you meet this Doctor?
Oh, I'm sorry.
She misses such key information as can't hold a conversation, looks incredibly smooth, and also can't seem to say anything other than pizza, which is already a jarring line the way it's been said and the way it's cut together. But like, how is that not a signification to you? Not sure what signification is, but we're gonna roll with it.
But you can trust me, sweetheart. Babe.
Fine.
Babe. Sugar.
Rose in the book is a little bit more observant. Rose on the TV show only realises that Mickey is plastic when the Doctor kind of intervenes. But in the book, she realises before that and has to sit at a table trying to stop what could be a killing machine from going berserk in a restaurant full of people. You see her internal struggle sitting across from literal life danger. And I really enjoyed it. I thought this was an excellent addition to the book because it gave Rose a little bit more agency. Once again, the CGI in these moments are a little bit... yeah, not great. They're not great at all. Whilst Rose and Mickey are having a conversation about the Doctor, a waiter keeps interrupting them asking about champagne, and it's only when both of them look up at the waiter that they realise that the waiter is in fact the Doctor. I know, guys. Plot twist, am I right? At this point, the Doctor kind of shakes the champagne and pops the cork into Mickey's face. But all Mickey does is just absorb the cork and spit it out of its mouth. The CGI here was not great. The CGI here is not amazing, and it does just not look great. It dates it. It dates it, and I hate saying this about Doctor Who because I love that the CGI kind of dates it a little bit, but yeah, this isn't great, let's be honest. And then, to make matters even worse, the Doctor kind of beheads Plastic Mickey, takes the head with him as the torso begins to grow spatula hands and starts smashing the place up. I mean, come on. Spatula hands? Are we being serious? I mean, at least he could get a job at McDonald's, do you know what I mean? And I think they'd find him extremely handy. Handy. Do you get it? Because they're his hands. Yeah, okay, I'm ill, guys.
Don't think that's gonna stop me.
After the Doctor and Rose's epic escape from the restaurant, we finally get our first glimpse at the new interior of the TARDIS. Now, this interior is one that I am incredibly nostalgic for. It's the one that I grew up with. It's the one that I picture when I think of the TARDIS. And if my opinion, I think it is probably one of the best TARDISes, purely because it just feels like home. Rose's reaction to this was actually very entertaining, and I have to say Billie Piper does an exceptional job of showing the confusion and the absolute panic on Rose's face when this whole situation is going down. With Plastic Mickey banging down the door behind her, she runs into that console room, realises it's bigger on the inside, runs outside, runs around it, realises that it's smaller on the outside, and then runs back inside and is like, what is going on here? I'm so unbelievably confused.
It's gonna follow us.
It's so genuinely great to watch a companion realise all this for the first time and for them to enter this new world. And I think, if I'm being honest, Rose is definitely one of the better examples of this trope, because sometimes it's a little bit too calm, but because of the frantic energy, it just makes it so much more exciting. Once again, we get a blunt, brutal moment of honesty from the Doctor when Rose asks about her boyfriend, and the Doctor seems to have not considered the fact that Mickey is probably dead at this point.
Did they kill Mickey? Is he dead?
I didn't think of that.
Rose can barely believe him, but then again, her reaction isn't exactly the kind of reaction I would expect from someone who's just been told your boyfriend might be dead. Is this another example that Mickey and Rose's relationship is a sham?
Yeah.
Either way, the Doctor's brutal honesty is another moment where the audience can consider him an alien. How could he not consider the fact that her boyfriend might be dead? Russell T Davies does a good job of threading these moments throughout the episode. We're told the Doctor is an alien. We know the Doctor is an alien, but he's showing us that the Doctor is an alien without telling us that the Doctor is an alien. And I think that is what is so important about the writing here and about Christopher Eccleston's portrayal of the Doctor. It's cold and brutal, but there's flashes of brilliance that can't help but make you love him.
Oh, no!
Now, if there's one thing that I love about Doctor Who, and I love a lot of things about Doctor Who, it's when the Doctor gets wrapped up in his own thoughts, in his own feelings, in his own overthinking nature, and doesn't quite see what is literally before his eyes, which is kind of ironic, seeing as though, you know, well, yeah.
How can you hide something that big in a city this small?
It never fails to entertain me because the Doctor always overthinks these moments, and the companions are the ones that have to step in with a relatively simple solution or a simple answer to a question that he's posing. And he goes, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Effectively, the Doctor is trying to work out where this transmission must be coming from. It must be coming from something
round and massive, somewhere slap bang in the middle of London.
They're standing on Westminster Bridge. Rose is facing the Doctor, and behind the Doctor is the London Eye.
Must be completely invisible.
And she's staring at it going, look. And he's like, what? Look. What? Look.
Fantastic.
Genuinely, sometimes I think the Doctor is too smart for his own good, because that was a very, very simple solution. But I also loved the fact that he didn't get it straight away, and it was Rose that had to hand him that answer. I mean, what a partnership, am I right? This is an excellent scene, made even more iconic by the fact that they filmed this in the middle of the night on Westminster Bridge. I mean, we don't get much more iconic than that at the end of the day. Most of the filming takes place in Cardiff, so being on location in London to film such a pivotal scene must have been really exciting for the actors, especially considering this was the first episode of the TV show. Before we head into the super secret alien layer that's hidden below London, I think it's important to note that there was actually a moment that came before this in the book that I actually think would have been incredible to watch on the TV show. In the original episode, the Doctor and Rose kind of follow the Sonic to the first manhole cover that they find and strike gold. Oh my god, yay, we've got access to the layer.
What about down here?
But in the book, they have to go through a little bit more of a tumultuous process to get there. If you're familiar with the South Bank in London, you'll know that there's a lot of living statues there, which are basically people that dress up and pretend to be still for a living, earning money from people who walk past and just chuck a couple of pound coins at them. Or, nowadays, you can tap your card. I think that's cheeky, personally.
Nerve of it, the absolute cheek.
But in the book, they actually reveal that these living statues are actually, in fact, autons, and upon the mention of the word Doctor, they activate and they start chasing after Rose and the Doctor, causing all this pandemonium along the South Bank. And honestly, this was such a thrilling moment. It was a chase, it was exciting, and I enjoyed it so much more than just the Doctor and Rose following the Sonic beeping to the layer. Do you know what I mean? I liked the fact that there was a chase sequence there. It added depth, and it also gave us another tense sequence that would have been impossible to achieve on the TV show. I mean, there's no way that they're clearing the entirety of South Bank to film this kind of scene, do you know what I mean?
Get out of the way!
Once the Doctor and Rose find the nesting consciousness's layer, which is actually a really difficult thing to say, we discover that Mickey is still alive. I'm not sure whether Rose's relief in this moment was genuine because she actually was worried that Mickey had died, or whether it was because she was going to have some very difficult conversations when she got home if he wasn't. Also, in the book, they do another fake out with another fake Mickey, which is how the Doctor ends up getting trapped by the nesting consciousness. And I have to say, again, I really liked that subtle addition. As the Doctor is restrained by Autons, we see him begin to reason with the consciousness, and we also get to see a lot more backstory from the Time War.
I fought in the war, it wasn't my fault!
There was a brief mention earlier on that the Nestines' food supply had been destroyed during the war, but here we learn that the Doctor was somehow involved and somehow didn't manage to stop it. It's a curious little teaser in the first episode for what will become a huge overarching narrative throughout the entirety of New Who, and something that still affects the Doctor to this day. What this Time War actually consisted of is still unknown, but we see the impact of this war on the Doctor, and Christopher Eccleston carries the Doctor with such a wounded disposition that you can't help but feel that this is something extremely grave and heartbreaking for him to carry. This isn't the strong, brash Doctor that we've been seeing throughout the episode. This is a man who caused so much devastation and can't seem to work out how to come back from that.
I couldn't save your world, I couldn't save any of them!
So, here we go! The Doctor's plea for peace falls on deaf ears, and the nesting consciousness decides to start the invasion! Yay! I mean, I was excited for this personally.
It's the activation signal! It's transmitting!
The brief moments of curiosity from passers-by as they're looking in the shop windows at these dummies going, eh, 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 eh. It was just so exciting because we know what's going to happen as the audience and they have no clue. And then smash, smash, smash. Suddenly, everyone's screaming and everyone's running. Unfortunately, Clive Finch, who you'll probably remember earlier as the
Death.
guy, has the distinct privilege of being the first on-screen death of New Who. I mean, give him a round of applause, guys. I mean, actually, that's probably in bad taste, isn't it? Because a man has died. Either way, it established the stakes immediately, and the invasion was off to a successful start. The scene in the street with Jackie was genuinely one of the best moments of the episode. The pandemonium, the craziness, the absolute mania of everybody running backwards and forwards as the Autons are running backwards and forwards, shooting lasers everywhere. It's absolutely cinema. I have distinct memories of those Autumn Brides, and every time I rewatch it, I'm filled with that same kind of dread that I felt when I was a kid watching it. I'm sure I used to have a mini freak out every time my mum used to take me to Primark, purely because there'd be mannequins in there, and I was afraid they were going to come to life and kill everybody. Doctor Who genuinely put the fear of God into me about these mannequins. Honestly, Doctor Who really isn't a kids' TV show when you think about it, because who looks at mannequins and go, yeah, let's bring them to life and let's have them shoot lasers and kill people? Yeah, because that's not going to scare kids, is it? In fact, Jackie Tyler was caught in the horrors of the Queen's Arcade massacre and was almost killed by the same Autumn Brides that haunted my nightmares for years. I promise you guys, I'm not traumatized, I promise. Also, when the invasion begun, she kind of just ditched her shopping bags. The shopping bags that she'd spent hard-earned money on. I mean, listen, if I was Jackie and I'd bought a skimpy little outfit for Dave round the corner, I'd hardly be dashing it off to the side just because my life's in danger. No, I'm clinging on to it for dear life, because if I live through it, I'm still going around to see Dave in the evening. In the book, the Autumn invasion was expanded somewhat. I mean, the perspectives of Jackie were pretty much the same as we saw in the episode, which was nice to follow along, but there was so much new content and so many new perspectives to follow that I actually thought it expanded it in such a positive way. First of all, we saw what the Bad Wolf Band were up to. We saw them trawling through the streets of London having just finished their gigs, and they came across loads of cool and unique Autons. Jackie came across a Lego clown, which was cool, as well as the Autumn Brides, but the band came across child Autons who were shooting what looked like plastic pea pellets at them, which was a nice little reference to the fact that these are child Autons and therefore wouldn't have the same laser capabilities as their parents. Then we saw a brief section from Jimmy Stone, who Rose mentions in the episode as being her ex-boyfriend, and he is stealing from his rich girlfriend and then subsequently killed by Autons. So hey, justice is clearly very swift. And then finally, we see Clive stand his ground against the Autons, protecting his family, telling them to run and facing danger like a true hero. Genuinely, I almost got choked up reading Clive's death because it was such a beautiful moment. Clive in the book is very clearly a damaged, scared little boy who is mourning the death of his father, and seeing him have his hero moment, guys, I'm gonna start crying again. Then it shifted to his wife's perspective as we see her running through the streets with her kids, trying to protect them from the army of Autons who are gathering from either side of her. There was a little teaser once the invasion was over that I really liked, and it was basically Caroline saying, hey, I am going to get revenge on the Doctor and he's going to pay for the death of Clive. It's a nice little hint at something that could potentially be a plot point in the future, either in audio, in novel, or even on the television show. But either way, it just gives you an idea that not everybody has positive interactions with the Doctor, and some people end up walking away extremely bitter and upset with him. But the true horror of this entire book came from the fact that the microplastics inside of our bodies were controlled by the Nestine consciousness. I hadn't even considered the fact that it could control the plastics inside of our bodies. So effectively, there was a section of the book where everybody was just being rendered completely inert. Legs stopped working, bodies were shutting down, and effectively they were just lambs to the slaughter for the gathering Auton attack. Russell, where did you come up with this? This is quite possibly the most chilling and haunting thing than I've ever seen in Doctor Who fiction. That's probably a lie, but let's go with the fact that it could be. So like I said earlier, the Doctor needs a companion because often he lands himself in completely uncompromisable situations that require a second pair of hands to help him out of it. Otherwise, he's going to die. Now I'm going to try and make it through this sentence without twisting my tongue. But Rose and her Jericho Street Junior School Under-7s gymnastics bronze medal came into... Oh no, I missed the team. But Rose and her Jericho Street... Damn. But Rose and her Jericho Street Junior School Under-7s gymnastic team bronze medal came to the rescue. Guys, I know, give me applause, give me applause. I can't believe I made it through that sentence.
Jericho Street Junior School Under-7s gymnastics team. I've got the bronze.
She used his chain to swing down, knock the Auton into the nesting consciousness, and save the Doctor from impending doom. I don't quite know what gymnastics has to do with swinging on a chain, because I'm fairly certain that is not a discipline at the Olympics. But hey, I've not done gymnastics, so I can't comment. Maybe there is a whole swinging chain section of the gymnastics at the Olympics that I've just been missing out on. Also, the Autons falling into the nesting consciousness actually meant that the anti-plastic that the Doctor had bought as a last resort ended up killing the nesting consciousness and ending the invasion. Now, I don't know whose idea it was to call it anti-plastic, but come on, could we not have come up with something a little bit more creative? Something like Plasticus Exterminus or the Drastic Plastic Plan. Okay, both of those were absolutely dreadful, but come on, we could have come up with something a little bit more exciting. Maybe I shouldn't be commenting if I don't have any constructive criticism. That's what I'm learning today, guys. Well, the Earth has been saved from an alien invasion and everyone, except Clive, has survived to tell the tale. The TARDIS lands in a random back alley and the Mickey scrambles out of the TARDIS, seeming scared by the fact that he's just encountered alien technology. I understand that the interior of the TARDIS can be quite overwhelming, but after everything you've witnessed today, do you really have to be such a pussy? I'm not gonna tell him to man up because that would be toxic, but I am going to ask if he's surprised that Rose chose the Doctor in the end. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself.
You could come with me.
The Doctor asks Rose if she would like to come travel with him, which seems like an offer that she genuinely can't refuse. However, she does turn it down, claiming that she has to look after her mother and Mickey. But the excuses kind of feel emptier than a family bag of crisps after I'm done with them. She also calls Mickey a stupid lump, which is just a conversation for another day. There's a whole another video about the way that Rose treats Mickey, but I don't think either of them are particularly good in this relationship, let's be honest.
Yeah, I can't. I've got to go and find my mum and...
It felt like she was trying to find anything she could to excuse herself out of this, rather than genuinely not wanting to go on the trip. It felt like a feeble excuse, let's just say. The Doctor leaves, but moments later returns and just says the simple words,
By the way, did I mention it also travels in time?
And with that, Rose kisses Mickey on the forehead and runs towards the rest of her life. The credits roll and the first episode of the new series is done. The idea that Rose was tempted by time travel is actually incredible foreshadowing for an episode later on in this series, which covers Rose's manipulation of time. I think foreshadowing is something that this show does exceptionally well, because when you're watching it, you barely notice these subtle moments, but they become so important later on that when you're rewatching them, you see that the seeds were sowed the entire way through the series, and you're actually like, hey, this is incredible storytelling, and none of us realised it until we watched it a second time. This is just the first sign that this series is going to be so intrinsically linked together, and that's what makes it such a cohesive, excellent season of television. So, that's it for the episode. But we do have to deal with the death counter. We have one on-screen death and one off-screen death in this episode that are absolutely confirmed to have happened. Firstly, our off-screen death is Wilson, the head electrician at Henrik's. The doctor seems sure that he had been killed by Autons in the basement, so I'm going to go ahead and add him to the death counter. Secondly, we have Clive Finch, our brave Doctor Who investigator, who was also killed by Autons. So, there you go, Clive. Sorry. That's death number 2 and another casualty of the Great Auton attack of 2005. So, with a grand total of 2 deaths in this episode, it's time to look a little bit further and see just how many deaths were globally in this attack. Reports vary from 78 to 430 casualties, but because of extenuating circumstances, it's unsure how many people actually were casualties in this, especially globally. So effectively, our death count is somewhere between those numbers, but we're going to stick with 2. So, with the episode analysed and the death counter dealt with, the last thing we need to do is update the wibbly wobbly wall. We start off with a strong episode, introducing us to an exciting new doctor, a wonderful new companion, and her support network, which is something that Classic Who failed to do most of the time. We get to see the very real effects of the Doctor's adventures on companions and their family firsthand, and with a very real Earth invasion on our hands, it proves that this show is not messing about and the stakes are high from the get-go. So, I'm giving this episode an 8 out of 10, and with that, the episode is complete. But that is all we've got time for today, so thank you guys very, very much for watching. If you're enjoying the Doctor Who content, then make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on this episode down below, and I'll be back next time, potentially with the end of the world. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. See you guys later. Keep on ranting. Bye now.